Welcome to episode 100 of the 1871 podcast. Can you believe it? Johnny, can you believe we've reached 100 episodes?
No, I don't think anybody else probably can either. 100 not out.
No.
What a cracking innings.
What, sorry?
What a cracking innings.
Yeah, 100 not out. So I think series one was something like 74 episodes, although something like five or six of those episodes were when you had the Legends game.
Yeah.
So we did a pre-match game. I think we did a first half roundup, and then we had some fans on afterwards to talk. So there are about five games. Sorry, not 5 games, 5 episodes to talk about that one game. But it was about 74 episodes, which means, if my maths is correct, we've had 26 episodes in series 2 so far, including this one.
Yep.
So we're also going to do a special 106th episode talking about the Reading famous 106 season. Now this podcast is 1871. We're not sure if we'll ever get up to 1071 episodes, but we're gonna do a special 106 episode talking about the 106 season, the 106th 1871 podcast episode. So I hope you're following us so far. As we've said on more than one occasion, we kind of make it up as we go along. And if some people listen and if some people watch, that's great. And we do get some very good feedback. We get the odd negative thing here and there, but mostly we get positive feedback. So thank you to anyone who's done that. So this is episode 100. So as I say, for the 106 episode, it's about the 106 season. And for the 100 episode, the 100th episode, Johnny and I have been racking our brains and deciding what to do. So here's what we've come up with. We thought about talking about all the episodes we've had. So we've had some amazing guests, including the likes of Steve Coppell, Brian McDermott, Kevin Doyle, Graham Murty, Leroy Lita, Shaka Hislop, Trevor Senior, Martin Hicks, Simon Osborne. The list goes on and on and on. Had some amazing guests. But as this is episode 100, we thought what we'd do is to bring you a Reading FC top 100. So I'll explain what that means and what we're going to do. We're going to start our Reading FC top 100 by starting a countdown of 25 of our favourite Reading players each. So that's 50 players in total, although we suspect that Johnny's 25 and my 25 might include some of the same players, which is fine. We've got different memories of different players. I know for sure, well, I'm pretty certain there's at least one player on Johnny's list that isn't on my list, because he's talked about him on several occasions that he's not on my list. So just to clarify, this is our some of our favourite players, so 25 each. It's not the greatest Reading players of all time. We thought about that, but we kind of did that on episode 1. We come up with our best left back, that infamous episode, Nicky Shorey, Dylan Kerr, blah blah blah. So we've done that, been there, done that. So we've just decided it's about our own personal memories, our own personal favourites. So it's 25 of our favourite Reading players, and we're going to start that countdown today. So we're counting down from 25 down to 16, which is 10 players each. And then on the following episode, we'll continue that countdown from 15 to 6. And then the following episode will be our 5 favourite Reading players, counting down from 5 to 1. And we might have the same players, and that's fine. As I say, we make it up as we go along, don't we, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Part of it. No script.
So that will be 25 players each. So 50 in total, although some I'm sure will be the same. I don't know who's on Johnny's list. Johnny doesn't know who's on my list. So we'll also bring you 10 memorable Reading games each in one of the episodes, 5 memorable Reading seasons each, 5 great Reading managers each, and also 5 influential people in Reading's history each. So if my maths is correct, that adds up to a top 100 of Reading FC players, managers, games, seasons, influential people, etc.
Exactly.
So we kind of checked it before we started recording the episode. We think that is right. Probably knowing the way that we do things, we'll end up with 101 or something like that. But we think we've got a top 100 Reading FC list, and this is our favourites. So it's not going to necessarily match yours. So don't sort of say, oh, that player was better than that player. These are our favourite players and memorable managers, memorable seasons, and stuff that's kind of a bit personal to us as well. So to do with our memories. So without further ado, this first episode, we're starting the countdown. So we're going to go from 25 to 16, and then the following episode, we'll start at 15 and continue the countdown. But this first episode, this first countdown on episode 100 is our favourite, well, some of our favourite Reading players, counting down from 25 to 16, so 10 players each. Johnny, would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
Oh, I can see as you're hosting. I'll let you go first.
Okay, thank you very much. So some of these will come as a surprise, but as I say, they're our favourites, and it's our memories. And you might even hear about players, Reading players that you've never heard of. You might hear about Reading players that you've forgotten about. And with that in mind, my number 25 on my countdown of favourite Reading players is someone who falls into the category of unsung hero. So at number 25 on my list is Gary Westwood, goalkeeper for Reading in the 80s. He joined Reading in 1983. He made 151 appearances, and he was part of the record-breaking Royals team who won the first 13 games at the start of the 85-86 season, and then went on to win the Canon League Division 3. Now, I'll confess that there are a few players from this team on my list, and that's because that was a season I was lucky enough to start supporting Reading properly that season. So I'd been to Reading games before, but that was my first full season. My dad, Brian Roach, was the director. So that was my first full season, and what a season that was! The record-breaking Royals, amazing. So some very, very fond memories for me. Now, I was doing some research into this, and Wikipedia included, which isn't always 100% accurate, as we know. But from what I can tell, Gary Westwood was Reading's only goalkeeper in that season. So he played in 55 out of Reading's 56 games. He only missed one game all season, which was an Associate Members' Cup game. He kept 20 clean sheets out of 46 games in the league that season, and another 3 clean sheets in the FA Cup. And as I say, an unsung hero. Do you remember him, Johnny?
Yeah, good keeper. Underrated, very, very much so. In a team, a good team, but he just was the kind of unspoken hero, if that's the...
Yeah, because I think that season was all about, Trevor Senior, Kevin Bremner, you had Martin Hicks playing at the back, some great midfielders in that side as well, and just a brilliant team to watch. Not always everyone's kind of favourite style of football. It was a bit direct, but it was really exciting, and that kind of got me hooked on being a Reading fan, really. So yeah. Gary Westwood, goalkeeper, part of the record-breaking Royal side, is my number 25 on my countdown. Johnny, who is your number 25 and why?
Yeah, so the first one, it's actually from the women's team, Fran Kirby. One, I think, because I think it was like stories behind players, and Fran had a lot of mental health issues when she was younger that she's been very open about. And to see kind of a Reading player go on to have the career that she has with Chelsea, England, very down to earth, very inspirational person. And the way the women's football has developed, there's so many good players at Reading now, but I think she's just kind of been like a bit of a leading light as a local player. So that's my first choice, number 25.
Yeah. And she's obviously playing for the women's team, but she's a legend. She's gone on to become a legend in the women's game, hasn't she? So if you think of women's football and the top names in women's football in recent years, she's certainly on that list.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would say, Johnny, is we've started with our number 25 each. Would have been very easy to do a top 50 or top 100 each, but we just wanted to kind of keep it sensible.
Definitely.
So I've done my 25 of my favourite Reading players, but there were at least 25 others I could have included. But I think between the two of us, we'll talk
some discussions,
some interesting players. So I'm going to come on to my number 24 now. Bit of a theme developing here because my number 24 also part of the record-breaking Royal side in 85-86 is Colin Bailey. Now, this was quite a difficult one for me because there were so many players who I could have included who didn't make it. They were among my favourite Reading players, but we did say we'd do a top 25 each of our favourite Reading players. So Colin Bailey makes it onto my list at number 24. He signed from Swindon for £22,500 in the summer of 1985, part of the record-breaking Royals in 85-86. He made 34 appearances that season and more than 100 appearances in total, and he played in the Simod Cup final. Born in Belfast, so a bit of a rarity in that team. So he was a Northern Irish player in that team, and he played as a right back, could also play in midfield. So for me, and the reason I've chosen him is, as I say, my first kind of proper full season as a Reading fan. And for me, he was an exciting player to watch, a quick player, and he could bring the ball forward quickly and set up attacks. I'm not saying he was like Dylan Kerr, but similarities there. So my number 24 is Colin Bailey. Johnny, over to you. Well, first of all, do you remember Colin Bailey?
Yeah, class player. I mean, that's, again, another probably unsung hero as such, wasn't he, in that side? He wouldn't be. A lot of those players. So my number 24 is Adam Federici. One is a class keeper, but I also think he's a class act off the pitch. I spoke to him a few times around mental health things, and he was very good and very supportive. I think the thing he did without Philip Hughes, the young cricketer that passed away back in Oz. And he was a good keeper. We all know the Arsenal mistake. But I think that season when we got promoted to the Premier League, how many clean sheets? I think there was 19. I think he had that season. I could be wrong. But I'm goalkeeper favourite, and he was one of mine. And again, we can all argue about the best goalie in the, but it's about things that mean something to me personally, and I something like that I've got a lot of time for. It's a shame his injury cut his career short as well.
And I think you mentioned the FA Cup game there, and a lot of people will remember him for that. And obviously, I think he held his hands up and apologised, didn't he? But he didn't need to. And I think in a way it's natural, but in a way it's a shame that people remember him for that. But also, he got Reading to he was part of the team that got to the semi-final, and he was a big part of that Reading side, because if you think about the progression of at that time, you had you had your first choice keeper, and then then Adam Federici came through, and it was the same with some of the outfield players like Shane Long had to kind of wait his turn, didn't he? And then he came in, and
Yeah, and the whole journey, I think, for Feds when when he sleeping on couches and getting it kind of something I think a lot of people identified with him.
Yeah. So moving on to number 23 for me. Surprise, surprise, yet another player from the record-breaking Royals team in the 80s. And my number 23 is Andy Rogers. Do you remember him, Johnny?
Yeah.
So Andy Rogers, wingers are always exciting players to watch. Obviously, the strikers are scoring the goals. We've had plenty of exciting wingers to watch over the years at Reading, and Andy Rogers was certainly one of those. He signed in the summer of '85 from Plymouth, made 51 appearances, scoring 6 goals. And he was only actually with Reading for the record-breaking Royal season. But, as I say, an exciting player to watch. He made 45 league appearances and scored all 6 of his Reading goals in the league. He scored in the 2-1 win against Rotherham 6 games into the record-breaking start to the season. So obviously an important goal. And there was quite a few games in that run that were by 1 goal that we won. So went on to win 13 games in a row at the start of the season. Johnny, I don't know if you remember, I can't remember who we were playing against, but it was an away game and he swallowed his tongue. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember, yeah, we talked about that before, didn't we? I think. Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but it was an away game, and my dad Brian Roach was a director. We drove up, we stayed overnight wherever it was. Can't remember. So Andy Rogers swallowed his tongue, stayed in hospital overnight, and then we actually took him back the following day. So a little bit of a kind of personal connection there. But the reason he's on my list is, because he was a great player to watch. So Andy Rogers, my number 23. So coming to you now, Johnny, for your 23.
Yeah, I've actually gone, and again, I think he's one of these players that was just class. Ivar Ingemarson. I just love watching. He didn't get ruffled. Nothing bothered him, and he was just cool, calm, and collected. And I think he started out central midfield before he went back and I know our greatest teams. And was a good leader. And he just kept his head when others were panicking. And that, a proper footballer. I like watching guys like that, and wasn't about the ego. Just got on with the game and led by example. And not many mistakes. And that was, a guy that kind of played elsewhere and then comes to Reading and reached the peak of his career. It's a good story to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just a class act as a person and a player. And actually, it's interesting that you've got Ivar Ingemarson at this point, or Ivar as you call him, because he was one of the players who I was considering putting on my list. But I thought to myself, well, if I put him on, I wanted to, but then who am I going to leave out? This was actually quite difficult to do. I don't know about you, Johnny,
no, it's hard. It's hard.
So Ivar was on my list of considerations, on my short list, if you like, for my final 25. He didn't actually make it onto my list, and I thought, do you know what? I bet John is this, and genuinely, we didn't know.
No.
We said, we were going to do it like this, so we might. I imagine there'll be quite a few of the same players, especially when we get to the top end of the list.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice also to talk about some of those unsung heroes, perhaps Reading players that some listeners or people watching us on YouTube won't have even heard of, or as I said before, perhaps they go, oh yeah, I remember him, forgotten about him. But so I'm pleased that he's made it onto our 2 lists. So well done for that, Johnny. And I completely agree with you. Fantastic fantastic player for Reading, and obviously we could have put everyone in that.
Exactly.
So in terms of favourite players, moving on to my number 22, I've gone for Paul Cannaville. Joined Reading from Chelsea for £60,000 in 1986, which, believe it or not, was quite a lot of money back then. Just a fantastic winger. Reading very lucky to get him from Chelsea. I think one of the reasons was that he was getting fed up with the racist abuse. Some of the racist abuse he got at Chelsea was from the Chelsea fans. So to get him at Reading was fantastic. Such a quick player, really exciting to watch. Quick and tricky as a winger. Some similarities with Michael Gilks, apart from the fact that he was a winger, obviously. But unfortunately, a lot of you will know this story. He ruptured his cruciate ligament in a game against Sunderland. He did return to play again after that, but he never fully recovered. So he only actually made 21 appearances for Reading, scored six goals. Do you remember him, Johnny?
Oh, his class. I've spoken to him before, and there's another one that I probably would have been not far off the top 25 for me. Again, he didn't play a long career at Reading, but I think his whole story around what he went through at Chelsea and after his career ended. And he's just a lovely guy. He's just one of those guys that it's more than the football. Do you know what I mean? It's someone that you just can listen to, and a great player. Just to be the first. I think he was the first black player at Chelsea, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've read the book, and it's horrendous.
Black and Blue, was it? Is it
yes, that's
Blue?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
if you haven't read that, worth reading, and I think I read something from him that said he only thought about insurance the day before he got injured. So he ran into a lot of financial problems as a result of that injury.
Yeah.
And obviously players now they're properly covered through like their management team, their agent, help them with that stuff. But back in those days, you had to do a lot of stuff for yourself, including the insurance, which he hadn't got round to doing, and he had that injury, and it really had an adverse effect on his life, financially. Yeah. So a sad story as well, but only a short time at Reading, but made a fantastic impact. So Paul Cannaville is my number 22. How about you, Johnny?
Well, this is again another personal one. Number 22 is Gary Peters. He was the first ever Reading player I met, and my mum still got the photo of me and my brothers with him when I was about 4. I haven't changed much. He's probably not changed much in that time. But he's one of those players again. I'm sure you agree, Mark. That was kind of a unheralded hero. He played, I think, 2 spells at the club. Consistent, good player. Didn't get the plaudits as a lot of those players did back in those days. But he was one of those guys that made a lot of. I think how many appearances he made in the end? I think it was over 200 appearances. I think, and how many was I wrote down there? 250 odd. And just was a good player. Again, it's we could go back into different players, different eras, but that's just someone, I think, a journey that I've been on and seen and watching.
And Johnny, you've done it again, because he was one of the players you said, I think, about Paul Cannaville, didn't you? You considered him for your list, and he didn't make it onto your list. Gary Peters, the same as Ivar Ingemarson. He's not on my list, but he was one of those players who, he possibly could have even been number 26 or number 26, or something like that. I agree with you, and he would be on a list of great Reading players because, made a lot of appearances for Reading, and he was, he's a dependable player, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dependable in terms of you could always rely on him to put in a good performance. So, pleased you've got him on your list, and therefore, so we've got Ivar Ingemarson and Gary Peters, who didn't make it onto my list, but great that they got on one of the lists. So that's number 22 for you, Johnny. My my 21, I'm guessing he might be on your list as well. I don't know because we didn't divulge our list beforehand, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that he might be on your list. So my number 21, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about when I do this. Keith McPherson.
I actually haven't got him on there.
Oh, you haven't got him on there, so we're doing
No.
well. And genuinely, we didn't have a clue. We didn't even,
I'll even show Mark my list there. Look.
Yeah. The only thing you mentioned, you just sort of said to me, "Look, can I put one of Reading's women on my list?" And I basically said, "Do whatever you like."
Yeah.
So and I know there's one player I know is on your list who isn't on mine, Johnny, from previous conversations we've had.
I hope so. Oh.
So Keith McPherson. Firstly, I think for me, one of the all-time greatest Reading FC songs. Well, certainly one of my favourites, Dylan Kerr, my Lord, being among the others. There was a song about Trevor Senior, give it a punt to Trevor up front, scoring in a winter wonderland. That's one of my other personal favourites. So Keith McPherson, he joined Reading from Northampton in 1990, went on to make more than 300 appearances. In 9 years with Reading, he scored 9 goals. Just a brilliant central defender.
Yeah.
He made 53 appearances in the 91-92 season, which was more than any other player. He won Player of the Season that season. Similar the following season, 52 appearances, more than any other player. Played in the playoff final against Bolton in 1995. And I thought it'd be on your list as well, Johnny, but just...
again, that's another one.
Amazing player, wasn't he?
Yeah, brilliant leader. And very unassuming, very quiet. Yeah. He didn't need to throw his weight around. He wasn't that kind of player, was he? He was just, again, like Ivar, just calm, collected leader, that you had at the back. Those kind of players are very rare, I think.
So am I right in thinking that so far we haven't got any of the same players?
No.
Okay. All right. So I think that's going to happen a bit more towards the end of this series, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely.
Who's your 21, Johnny?
And now I reckon there could be a 50-50 that you might have this one. And I've gone for Jimmy Quinn because, goal scoring, like we've had some great goal scorers over the years. And, watching him, even before he was at Reading, the career he had as a player for Northern Ireland as well. But he was just what he was, wasn't he? He was a goal scorer. Totally different. Yeah, a different type of goal machine to Trevor Senior and the other strikers that we've had. But he was big, physical. He could head, finish. And obviously went on to become a manager. But he was, not many defenders would enjoy playing against him, I don't think.
No, and surprisingly, based on what you said, he's not on my list. He's yet another one. He's yet another one who's kind of on my reserve list is bigger than my actual list.
Yeah.
He's on the reserve list or whatever you want to call it. So please, you've got him on there because he's not on my list. Same for my next player. Might be on your list, might not be. But I think. Certainly going back to Jimmy Quinn, if you're talking about a greatest Reading team, I think he was on the bench in our greatest Reading team, wasn't he? Or just missed out or something like that. Can't remember. But yeah, one of the greatest strikers Reading have ever had for sure. Now this next player, he would, in my opinion, certainly over the last 40, 50 years or whatever it is, he would make it onto a list of greatest Reading defenders. So my number 20 is Darius Dovcek. Is he on your list, Johnny?
Yes, he is.
The first one. I had a suspicion he might be, but then I thought that about Keith McPherson, and you thought that with my list about Jimmy Quinn. So Darius Dovcek, the first on both lists, and I won't ask you where he is on your list, Johnny. We'll come to that. So he's number 20 on my list. He joined Reading from Celtic in 1994, made 94 appearances for Reading. For me, without question, one of Reading's greatest centre-backs of all time. Such a stylish player, fantastic player. Played more than 50 times for Poland, played in the playoff final against Bolton at Wembley in '95. So I'll leave it to you to say what you want to say about Darius Dovcek later on. I don't know what number you've got him at, but we'll come to that. But who's your number 20, Johnny?
Well, again, same era. So I'm just helping my daughter with the doll. We're not good. AD Williams. I think because again, I know he played Wales, but he was a local lad. Came through the team. Played out. I always remember he had every shirt, didn't he? There was a time he played every position. And then when he came back the second time, after being at Wolves, again, just a leader, just a Reading leader. We were lucky to have a lot of them, I think, at different times where they just led the club. And sorry, my daughter's
Johnny's got his daughter with him.
She's chipping in there about her opinions.
Who's your daughter's favourite Reading player?
An LOL doll at the minute.
Okay, all right.
No, but he was the kind of the guy that I just think he lived and breathed Reading, and when you had all those characters together in that team, you had Darius, you had him, you had Keith McPherson, so many leaders, and that's what probably where we're lacking now as a club.
Yeah,
and that was. Again, like he would be maybe a bit more vocal as a leader, maybe obvious leader than say Darius, but all their abilities together just made that team what it was.
Yeah, and if you're putting together, which we did in Series 1, if you're putting together a list of Reading FC legends, he's on that list, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I'll reveal a bit later on if he's on my list or not. At number 19, some similarities in that this player was a local lad that came through to play for Reading. So my number 19, another central defender, is Steve Wood. Oh, yeah. So Steve Wood was player of the season in 84-85 and 85-86. Local lad from Bracknell. He actually started at Arsenal before he joined Reading. And he was part of that superb centre-back partnership with Martin Hicks. Played so many games for Reading together. My dad was actually his agent, Steve Wood. He made 251 appearances. He scored 9 goals. And I don't know if you remember us talking about this before, Johnny, but Steve Wood and Martin Hicks both scored in a 2-0 win against Rotherham in a game at Elm Park that I sponsored when I was a mobile DJ running Night Train Mobile Disco. Do you remember that story?
I do remember. I'm still waiting for the comeback.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've been DJing, but actually DJ'd for the Reading players a couple of times at the end of season parties at Roger Smee's house back in the day. So yeah, Steve Wood, great player for Reading and one of a long line of classy centre-backs for Reading. Player of the Year twice. So Steve Wood is my number 19. How about you for number 19, Johnny?
This was again kind of another, I think possibly saw him make his debut, my first ever Reading game back in the early 80s. Kerry Dixon. He was just, again, I think it was because he went on, like I said about Fran, he went on from Reading to become, top goal scorer at Chelsea, play for England, and that put little old Reading on the map. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, I remember him scoring 2 goals in an international in '85, I think over in America, and it was like, well, that's Kerry Dixon from Reading. He wasn't from Reading, but he was identified as a Reading player, and he was a proper goal scorer again. Obviously, dealing with Lineker and other players in the England setup at that time, but brutal finisher. He was a class player. and he went
Yeah.
on to play top level.
Yeah, I think you're right. That word, isn't it? Finisher. He was just class, and he's not actually on my list because he was a bit before my time. Even though my dad was his agent, that was the first player that my dad had as an agent, and then went on to he was looking after Stuart Lovell as well, and Steve Wood. But yeah, so Kerry Dixon's not on my list. He's certainly, be in consideration for a greatest, Reading team, and we talked about him in our greatest Reading strikers, didn't we? So yeah, obviously, you'd probably say a Reading legend in terms of a goal scorer, I think. And didn't he score? Didn't he in one game he scored 4 goals and Reading lost 5-4 or 6-4?
Something
like
like that. Something typically Reading.
Yeah. So, well, that leads me on nicely to my number 18.
19.
No, I've done that was 19, wasn't it?
Yeah, 18. Sorry, yeah, sorry.
So 18 now, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was your Kerry Dixon, was your number 19.
Yeah.
Leading on to my number 18, another legendary Reading striker. He kind of had to be on at least one of our lists, and I'm guessing he's on your list, Johnny, but I don't know. But I think he probably will be. Jamie Cureton.
Oh yeah, he's on there.
So Jamie Cureton signed from Bristol Rovers, top scorer 2000-2001 with 30 goals, scored in the playoff final that season against Walsall. And again, a bit like I said earlier, Steve Wood and Martin Hicks, just one of those great partnerships for Reading, and he had a fantastic partnership with Martin Butler up front. And of course, he scored the crucial goal at Brentford to secure automatic promotion the following season. Brilliant finisher, and I think his finish, the way he finished to clinch automatic promotion, kind of summed up what a great finisher, what a great player he was. 127 appearances, 55 goals. And I'll tell you why. One of the reasons he's on my list, one of my favourite Reading players, just to highlight that, when my first daughter was born, we were thinking of names, and if we found out that she would be a girl, but when we were starting to think about names, if it was a boy, Jamie was on the list, and that was in my thinking. So yeah, I could have a child named after Jamie Cureton, but we ended up having a girl. Could have called, Jamie can be a girl's name, but yeah, my daughter's name ended up being Ebba. So yeah, but that's kind of highlights, I think, how much of a favourite he was for a lot of Reading fans. Sorry, Johnny, what were you saying?
No, I'm going to say it's a funny story about that. One of the children I look after over here, his dad's a massive Bristol Rovers fan, so you can never guess what his name is.
Well,
I never realised, I never twigged on it until you were telling me one day, and I went, so we have there you go.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there are Reading legends who are legends of other clubs. I mean, we had obviously Ray Houghton on recently, and I think we said we kind of summed it up. You wouldn't class him as a Reading legend, but he was a legend who played for Reading. Certainly, I don't know if
Jason Roberts wouldn't be a similar kind of player that who's made his career elsewhere, but did his thing.
We've had a few players like that. I mean, I don't think you would describe Les Ferdinand as a Reading legend, but
no, Martin Keown
as a player, it's a legend that's played for Reading.
Yeah.
So Jamie Cureton's my number 18. Who's your number 18?
I've got one in a minute. He's not doing too bad as a manager at the minute. I'm not sure if you have him on your list. You maybe would. Phil Parkinson.
Yeah, he might be on my list, but I'll come to that a bit later.
Yeah, I think what Parky is, and I think more so because he was brilliant when we weren't. There was a time, the late 90s, we were really poor as a team. And if it wasn't for his leadership and his constant 100% effort, we could have got relegated. He always put everything out on the pitch, how well the team were playing, not well. you always knew that Parky would put 100% in, and that was never ever in doubt, was it?
No, and I can remember him. I remember him more for the times when he played with his mask on than I do without, I think.
Yeah.
But that just kind of, that was a bit of almost like a label for him to say what type of player he was. You know, got the, I can't even remember what the injury was, but he was obviously wearing the mask because of a facial injury to protect him, and that really summed up who he was. There's this phrase, isn't there, that you know, about players that would run through brick walls, and he kind of fitted that description. He was just, who was it we spoke to? Was it John Fern, or we had somebody on the podcast who was talking about Phil Parkinson, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Colin Lee. It might have been Colin Lee, and he was talking about Phil Parkinson when he first signed, and he used that phrase. You know, he's asking someone about him, and he said, "If you want someone who will run through brick walls for you,
Yeah,
you know, Phil Parkinson ticks that box." And I think it was Colin Lee was saying,
yeah, I think so.
You know, he was kind of not like a headless chicken, but he just was 100% full on when he first came to Reading, and I think Colin Lee kind of helped to mould him a bit. But
we used to have the gum shield as well, wasn't it? Gum shield went in, and then off he went.
Half footballer, half boxer, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, it is brilliant.
But anyway, he may well be on my list later on. So coming towards the end of this first part of our countdown, for me at number 17, I think you'd have to say this player is a Reading legend. It's Stuart Bevan. So a goal-scoring midfielder. He signed in 1980 from Spurs, and he went on to make 481 appearances for Reading. He scored 55 goals. He was part of the record-breaking Royals side, and he scored one of the goals in the 2-0 win at Newport, as Reading broke the record for most wins at the start of the season. And kind of a slightly ironic thing about that is that he was a former Spurs player, so one of his goals broke Spurs record. So Reading broke Spurs record, and he used to play for Spurs, and he was one of the players that scored one of the two goals, the other one being Kevin Bremner at Newport. Were you at that game, Johnny?
No, I wasn't. No, in those days.
But that was one of my, you know, memorable Reading games. That game away to Newport to break the record. So yeah, he scored one of the goals in the Simod Cup final in 1988. I think it was a penalty. Yeah, Reading legend, one of my favourite players. And yeah, we've got so there's three of us on this call. There's myself, there's Johnny, and Johnny's daughter. So hello, Johnny's daughter. So who's your number 17, Johnny?
It's probably a bit left field for most people, but I've actually gone for Jan Kermigan. Reason being, I just love watching that season. You know, different type of striker, play with a smile on his face, and I just, you know, when especially I think because of the last number of years, you know, the football hasn't been great. He just is a bit of a shining light, I think, for me, as a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about Jan Kermigan? Is he good?
Yeah.
Yeah. She thinks. Yeah. Edie thinks Jan Kermigan's a good player as well.
Well, he was top scorer, wasn't he, a few seasons ago? Wasn't he, Johnny? I think you got mute on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was a class. So I'm very busy doing that. I'm multitasking. LOL dolls.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. You're doing well. You're doing
Thanks,
well.
mate. Thanks, mate. Yeah, but that's why I you know, again, you know, we could go, geez, how many players you could pick? You know, something different for me as a player that I enjoy. Not the usual striker, not the usual way, and it is a clinical finisher.
Yeah. So that's your number 17. So we're coming to the last player each for this 100th episode, the start of our countdown to finding our favourite 25 Reading players each. There's a few players who are on both lists, but we've got plenty of players that are on one list only. My number 16, I'm pretty sure Johnny is on your list as well, probably a bit higher up. It's Kevin Doyle. So I will be pretty confident he's on your list somewhere.
Possibly.
Yeah. So Kevin Doyle, as you all probably know already, signed from Cork City in 2005 for something like. So the official signing was done in euros, I think. It was something like 117,000 euros, which worked out to about £78,000.
Yeah.
And he was just brilliant for Reading in every way. He was kind of everything you want from a striker. And £78,000, what would he be worth now, Johnny? I mean, I don't think we're talking 100 million, but
you'd be looking at what, a striker like that,
50 million, 30 at least.
At least 30.
Yeah.
His age and his attributes as a striker, I think that's what it was about him, wasn't it? He just, where's this lad come from? And he just looked the part straight.
And he did it in the Premier League as well. So
yeah,
you know, it was the 106 season, the first season in the Premier League. I think, wasn't he top scorer in the Premier League?
Yeah,
first season. I think so. You know, so not only was he a fantastic goal scorer, just his contribution to that front line for Reading, he just always seemed hungry. He just always seemed to be able to put in maximum effort. So yeah, top scorer in 2008, 2009, as Reading finished fourth. He made a total of 163 appearances, scoring 56 goals out of 163 is pretty good. Not quite Erling Haaland's level, but pretty good. One of the greatest strikers, one of the greatest players in Reading's history for me. And I even had the Doyle is a Royal T-shirt. Do you remember that one?
I think as well, he's a humble, very humble guy, you know, and there's no arrogance about him. She sometimes thinks for strikers they have to be a bit, but he wasn't, and that's what made him even better, I think.
Yeah, so he's been a guest, hasn't he? He was a guest in Series 1 around the time of the Legends game, and he correctly predicted that the young ones would win. But I think he scored in the game, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So that's my final player for this episode, my number 16. So start of my countdown, 25 to 16. Number 16 is Kevin Doyle. Who's your 16, Johnny?
Again, this is a personal favourite. Again, I think for a family reason as well, is he's been on the podcast, Tony Rougeot. Also, you know, named our dog after him. My partner's daughter at the time, Jade, his favourite player. You know, again, there's something different about the way he played the game. You know, and it part, you know, my life at that time. Watching something like that play for us. I always remember the Oxford game, the 4-3 game. Absolutely tipping down with rain, and he came on and scored 2 goals. You know, and he didn't a huge goal scorer for the club, but you know, again, part of the history. But you know, it's not about scoring 300 goals. It's personal things that part of our journey as Reading fans, isn't it? That's what we've talked about, and he was part of that for me and my family.
And unfortunately for him, obviously, similar with Adam Federici, he'll be remembered for the unfortunate incident in the Walsall, the playoff game. I think the ball hit his backside and went in, didn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, certainly did. Yeah.
But yeah, same as Adam Federici, nothing to sort of take away from what he did for Reading. Similar to the reasons why somebody like Paul Canoville is on my list. You know, he was just an exciting player to watch. You know, just so difficult to play against for other teams. So that's our 25 to 16s. I don't think we've had anyone yet on this episode on both lists, have we?
We have had a couple, but we haven't. They're possibly on the list, maybe possibly later on.
No, but I mean on the 25 to 16.
No, not in that.
We've done 10 players each, so it's actually 20 players in total. So I think there's at least one or two that are going to come a bit later on.
Yeah. If we have one matching in the same number, that would just be a miracle.
It's just impossible, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's good that we've got different players, because I think you mentioned 3 that were sort of on my reserve list. I don't know even if you remember back to when we first started talking about doing this. You know, we were talking about 100 great Reading players, and we just decided to do this instead. But I had a great big pool of great Reading players, you know, and Jan Kermorgant was top scorer one season, so he was on that very long original list. Yeah, this is all about favourite players. So that's our start of our countdown for episode 100. So that's our 25 to 16 of our favourite Reading players. On the next episode, we'll be carrying on. So we'll be doing 15 to 6. And then on the following episode, Johnny and I will be counting down our top 5 Reading players. 1 or 2 might be on both lists, but let's see. So yeah, enjoyed that, Johnny. And look, 100 episodes. So
Yay.
Thanks for being part of that, and amazing guests that we've had on in the 100 episode. Well, in the first 99 episodes plus this one. So that's it. Our 100th episode. Started our countdown of Reading FC top 100, and that countdown is also going to include our 15 to 1 of our favourite players, myself and Johnny. Also, our 10 memorable Reading games, 5 managers, 5 seasons, and 5 influential people in Reading's history. And if you add all that up, that comes to 100. So looking forward to the next one, Johnny. Thanks as always, and see you on the next episode.
No worries. Yours.
And thanks for your daughter's contribution as well.